All right, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio has set July 1st as the goal to have New York City completely reopened.
Our plan is to fully reopen New York City on July 1st. We are ready for stores to open, for businesses to open, offices, theaters, full strength. Because look, what we're seeing is people have gotten vaccinated, an extraordinary number, 6.3 million vaccinations in New York City to date.
Okay, a sure sign that we are putting the pandemic behind us. But Dr. Anthony Fauci is still a little skittish, telling the Today Show's Savannah Guthrie that her child should still wear a mask even when playing outside. This sparked a backlash. New York Post columnist Carol Markowitz tweeting, "This is complete blood-boiling nonsense and contradicts Fauci's comments on Sunday that the risk when you're outdoors, which we have been saying all along, is extremely low. It's low for everyone, but especially for kids. Stop listening to this man." Allison, do we need to stop listening to that man?
Well, yes, we need to let our children not wear masks outside. My daughter, she runs track and it's starting to get hot. And I just don't think that kids should be running and exercising and wearing masks anymore outside. It's just ridiculous. These kids, they no masks. I'm done.
I hope I don't reveal anything I shouldn't, but yesterday I had a meeting with my boss. We're sitting in this meeting room and we both have our masks on. I said, "Have you had your shots?" He said, "Yeah." Well, I've had my shots. Why do we have this on? And, you know, it's like, at what point do you get the incentive, Hal, to get back to normal?
Right. Well, there's conflicting, information out there. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you're vaccinated, then you can, you can't. You see the president wearing a mask. He's vaccinated outside. So everybody's confused.
So Hal, what should we be doing?
Well, de Blasio is certainly being bold, isn't he? I mean, July 1st, he's going out a full 3 days before Biden said we could do it, and Cuomo still hasn't approved it. So, look, we've been open in the state of Texas basically the whole time. I mean, the schools have been open from the beginning. We didn't have any kids not go to school. We haven't had a single case that I'm aware of any school-aged child contracting the virus and dying, or getting even very sick. As far as playing sports outside, we've been playing sports outside without masks for a long time now. So, this whole thing about, hey, we can finally open up. Look, there's been many states that have been opened up, and they haven't had the problems that everybody predicted. Remember the Neanderthal thinking, Neanderthal thinking that Biden said we had? It hasn't played out that way at all.
Yeah, and Stacy, that's one of the things that confounds me as a parent, is it's not like we don't have examples of where opening up works.
Well, okay, so Allison, we have a daughter who runs track too. And when this was first jumping off and they were talking about, we're going to start having track practice again, we're coming back to the campus. And I was concerned that she might have to run indoors with a mask on. And so I've had other friends whose kids are practicing volleyball indoors with a mask on at the beginning of things, like in the fall. And since then, they've relaxed. They still have to wear masks outside if they're not running. But if they're actually running, they can take the mask off. But again, we're talking about a mask that acts like, a colander that you put your spaghetti into when you strain it. And the virus is the size of a grain of sand. 0.01 micron is a lot smaller than that. But the comparison, the sand's going through the colander, right? So we're just doing this for theater to help people who have a lot of fear dominating their lives. And it's hurting our kids. The kids aren't even the ones who are heavily impacted by this. And it just reminds me of the story from earlier this week of the Vail school district parents who showed up to basically plead for their kids not to have to wear masks every day and ended up seating a new school board. A whole new school board was seated that evening because those members wouldn't even listen to their public comments. They weren't violent. They weren't armed. There was nothing about it that should have caused the school board members not to want to listen to them and hear their concerns. So I want to ask parents out there to please get up and go to these school board meetings, go to municipal meetings, show up. Tell these people it's over, it's done.
Yeah, and Ted, I by the way, Stacy, you're lucky. As far as the volleyball, my girls play volleyball. They still play their games with masks, still practice with masks. And Ted, it drives me crazy that we're not moving forward. And like Stacy was saying, some of the larger particles they're finding for masks, they work, like sneezes, that sort of thing. Not this.
This is just ridiculous. Statistically, children are not getting the virus. They are not dying from the virus. This is ridiculous that we're putting our children through this. It's ridiculous that we have destroyed an entire years worth of education for these kids for no reason whatsoever. But the reason why de Blasio is opening up is because all of his businesses are leaving the state. All of his taxpayers are leaving the state. I was up in New Hampshire last week, and you can't buy a house in New Hampshire because they're being flooded by New Yorkers that are running away en masse to get away from de Blasio's crazy policies. You look at what's happening in Texas and Florida and Mississippi and other states where they are opening up, their economies are booming, and that's why Biden is able to step up yesterday and talk about how the economy is booming. It's booming because of these other states. And de Blasio doesn't want to be like Newsom in California, where he might face a recall coming up pretty soon.
I think what's happening, because there's a mayoral race in November, I think he's trying to do this, Allison, so that he can declare victory, right? He can say, okay, it's over. I did a fantastic job. Maybe he'll write a book.
No, that's very possible. It's all political, Bob, and it's all political. They don't care about the businesses. They don't care about the families.
That's what gets me. This whole equation where they leave out what happens to business, a $21 trillion economy that we have in this country. That's why you can't just shut things down.
No, you can't shut things down. You need to open up. We're here in New York. We see these businesses still shut down, these restaurants that have had to close. And again, as people are moving, they're going to Texas and they're going to Florida.
They are. They're going to places with lower taxes, better quality of life, less crime now. The crime has gotten ridiculous. Don't get me started, but we're trying to broaden this beyond de Blasio because we're here in New York and maybe that matters here. But this is going on nationwide. That's why we're talking about it. So, standby panel.